Hey game developers, Shashank here from SansArts. In this video we'll be creating Guess the Alphabet game in Unity. First you should be knowing ASCII values of the alphabets. ASCII means American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Take a screenshot of this picture if you want to know the ASCII values of the alphabets. Let's start by creating a background for our game. I'll drag and drop the background that I had designed. And let me scale it till it fills the screen size. And now if I hit play, you notice that the background has not been scaled according to the screen size. To fix this, just go to Canvas and set the UI scale mode to scale with screen size. Let me resize the background again. We are taking input from the user, right? Therefore, we'll create an input field. Let me drag it in the center. I'll reset the image because this looks cooler than the default input field. Let me change the color of the text to purple. I'll set the enter text to enter the alphabet. I'll create two buttons. The first one being restart button. I'll reset the image. And I'll create another button and I'll call it enter button. Let me rename this to restart. And yeah, we are done with the UI. Now let's create a game object, call it game controller, and let's add a script called game controller to it. Before starting, you should be knowing typecasting. So if you have an ASCII value of a character, here let it be 65, and if you convert that to a character by typecasting, it becomes a character. Let me print it now. Yeah, here ASCII value of capital A is 65, for that of capital B is 66, for capital C is 67, likewise for capital Z it's 90. ASCII value of small letter A is 97, and as that of small letter Z is 122. If you convert the ASCII value of a character into a character in this way, it becomes a character. Here I am converting 65 into a character, therefore it becomes capital A. I am just printing it now. So now if I hit play, now in the console capital A should be displayed. And yeah, likewise if you convert ASCII values of characters into a character, it becomes a character. Now ASCII value of small letter A is 97. If I convert that into a character, it becomes small letter A. Now we should see the small letter A, and yeah, small letter A has been displayed. Now let's write a script for our game. We are using input field for our game, right? Therefore we should invoke Unity engine.ui class. First we need the reference for the input field. Let's call it IFI, and next we need an integer. Let's call it random value. So here we'll be storing the random value generated by the random.range function. Here we'll create a function, call it generate value. Let me make it public. Over here we'll assign a random value for the random value variable. Let it be between 65 and 90. Random.range is a function which returns a random value between the first argument and the second argument. ASCII value of capital A is 65 and of capital Z is 90. In the update function, we'll check whether the player is pressing the enter key. If input dot get key down, key code dot written, then we'll call a chuck function, which we'll be creating now. So public void chuck, and inside this we'll check if the input field text is not equal to null. So input field dot text is the one which is over here. This thing, this is actually the text that we are entering here. If the text is not equal to null, we'll check the character entered by the player is equal to the randomly generated character. So here I'm using the typecasting. Now let's create a public text, call it info. If the character generated is equal to the inputted character, we'll just say info.text equals, you guessed the character, and it was the randomly generated character. Info text is just used to display the information for the user. If the text is not equal, then we'll set info text.text equals try again. Here this is a string and this is a character. If you save this and head back to Unity, Unity will pop up an error. Therefore we'll get the first character that has been entered by the user. As array index starts from 0, we'll enter 0 here instead of 1. In the start method, we'll call the generate value function, because whenever the game has been started, we need to assign the random value for the random value variable. We'll head back to Unity, and in the input field we'll set the character limit to 1, because we are only taking one alphabet from the user. And we have an error in the 4th line. Okay, it was the dot operator. Now let us drag the input field and let me create an info text. Let me drag it at the center. I'll set its size to 20 and set the horizontal overflow to overflow. Let me call it info and drag and drop it to the info text. Let me just display the value so that I need not to guess the character. Whenever the restart button has been pressed, we'll call the generate value function, and whenever enter button has been pressed, we'll call the chuck function. Yeah, we are done. Now if we hit play, you see that the character generated is S. Now if I enter different alphabets, it says try again, and if I enter S, it says you guessed the character, and it was S. Instead of pressing enter, you can also hit the enter button over here. Here, even after player has guessed the alphabet, which is S, player may try to enter alphabet again before hitting the restart button, which is over here. So if player does that, we are not generating another character before restarting. For example, if I enter S again, it says you guessed the character and another character is not being generated. To fix this, let's go to the script, and over here we'll set the input field dot interactable to false. Let's copy and paste it over here. Whenever we generate the value, we'll set input field dot interactable equals true. So when the player has guessed the character, we are not allowing him to enter the character again before pressing the restart button. You can also call the generate value function if we press the R key. Let's call it R. Let's head back to Unity. Let's set the info text to null because we don't want to display any text when player enters the game. Now if we hit play, so the character generated is H. I'll enter H. We should enter capital H, and yeah, it says you guessed the character and it was H. Now we can't enter the character again before pressing the restart button. Therefore let's press restart, and now the character generated is F. So now if we hit W, it says try again, so we should enter F. So whenever we guess the wrong character, we'll set the text in the input field to null because we don't want to click backspace and enter the character again. Let me add a space over here. If you want the player to guess small letter alphabets, you can enter 97 as the first argument and 122 as the second argument, because ASCII value of small letter A is 97, as that of small letter Z is 122. If you want this script to generate ASCII values of the capital letters and even the small letters, I'll create a public boolean, call it capital, and here I will check if capital, which means if we have enabled or if capital is set to true, we are generating a value between 65 and 90, else we'll generate a value between 97 and 122. You can make the game more challenging by including number of tries. Therefore let me create public int and call it number of tries, and whenever the player guesses the wrong alphabet, I'll decrement number of tries by 1. In the check function over here, I'll check whether or not number of tries is greater than 0. If number of tries is greater than 0, player can guess the character. Else we'll set info.text to you lost, and we'll set input field.interactable equals false because we don't want the player to enter the character again. Over here we'll replace R by something like question mark or the slash key because we are even generating small letter R if capital is set to false. And as we are using number of tries, instead of calling generate value whenever restart button is pressed, we'll load the level again. And I'm loading the game level. So let me create a public void, call it restart, because we also have the button in the scene, and I'll load the level again. First let me save the scene as game, and I'll add it to build settings. Now let us set the number of tries to 3, and I'll set capital to false because now I need to generate small letter alphabets. So the character generated is N. I'll enter Q, W and E. Now you notice that we tried 4 times, but we are only allowed to try 3 times, right? So let us head back to script and set 0 to 1 because it's going in this way and we have not put this line of code over here. If this line of code was here, let's set this to 0. Let's head back to Unity and try again. So the character generated is N. Let me enter T, Y and I. Yeah, now we had only 3 tries. Now we have the game. But before that, let us call restart whenever the restart button has been pressed. So the character is E. Now if I press the restart button, the whole scene has restarted. Now we have developed the game. If you want to download the project files, or if you want to join Science's Discord server, or if you want to support me via Patreon, you can click the respective links which are available in the description. Thanks for watching this video.